still working to this day.
Yeah.
Didn't know how he was going to retire, didn't have a way to retire. So the dream of that has gone away from most of these guys that are out there working, and it's not their fault. Their society has failed them.
It's almost like people are saying, enough bullshit, let's get on with the reality of the circumstance. I think that's going to bode very well for Richard, and I'm really hopeful that he gets through all of that and we end up in a much better position. I just see you as a stalwart within the community. I mean, the effort that you've put in, all the stuff that you've actually been able to produce, highest of stakes is exceptional. All of that, to me, speaks about commitment. And, you know, I really, really value the commitment you've given to the community. And I would hope that most of the people that come to watch your content understand that about you, that you've been around since day one, just about, in terms of the community. Yeah. And it's very obvious to me that your heart's in the right place.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's, you know, I got here before, you know, Richard even started talking about Hex. He was talking about fluid dynamic coin and all those things, and went over my head. I didn't really get it too much, but I knew that he was a good guy. I liked Richard. Yeah. And I was around since 2014, really, and in crypto. And I was convicted to crypto at that time because of what it was to me. You know, I in 2009 and 10, I had a company that we were in forums where the Bitcoin forums were, IRC chat rooms and whatnot. And I saw it being talked about, and I saw when they launched it, and didn't think much of it, you know, until somebody actually asked me for some, and I had to set up that wallet and go get the Bitcoin and send it to them, you know, and they did some dev work for us. And then a few months later, somebody asked me for some more, and I saw the change that was in there, what was just a few dollars, turned into a few $100s. And I was like, wait a second. And that's when I went in and did the research, and I was up for 48 hours, just just reading the white paper and I was trying to absorb everything I could. And at that point, after that weekend of discovery of what crypto was and could be to the world, I was convicted at that point. You know, I was like, this is something that me as a blue collar worker who's worried about his family, worried about his retirement, worried about the financial system, worried about where my country was going, all these things. It was like, this is the thing that could fix it. So I was convicted at that point. Yeah. And then I went through years and years of just watching scam after rug pull after, you know, ICO and rip off this and rip off that. And it was just, it got so disheartening. I was ready to throw in the towel and quit and say, well, this thing was a good idea. It was a great experiment, but it's garbage. These people in it don't even understand what they have their hands on, and they're just using it to grift. Yeah. And I didn't want to be part of that. And so I was on my way out when I ran into you know, Richard saying that he called the top of Bitcoin, and I was listening to Richard and other streamers and whatnot. And when he called the top, I was very angry because the next day it dumped. And then I realized to myself a day later, I was like, man, that guy called the top, man. He knows, not only is he a good guy, not only do I like him, but he called the top. Maybe I should just keep an eye on what he's doing. And so as everybody, like we do in a bear market, we back out of crypto, we go do our jobs and, you know, and everything else. I backed out, but I kept, you know, in touch with Richard and saw what he was doing. And he started talking about making his own crypto. I'm like, hey, maybe this guy might fix, you know, the ecosystem that is crypto and come out with a real DeFi project. And we weren't talking the word DeFi, but I knew what I wanted. I wanted self-custody of my wallet. I didn't want to have to create this wallet or that wallet or wait for this guy to get the coins into this one, or, oh, you have to go to this weird exchange in order to get your coins, you know. I was waiting for somebody to finally say, no, here, boom, here's a mutable code. Here's a regular wallet we're all using, you know, boom, boom, boom. Here's your coins. Nobody else has charge of them. And when he said he was going to do that, I watched. He did. I didn't know how to read code. So I took a chance on the fact that what he had done was just, and what he said he was going to do. And, son of a gun, it was. He did it. He did it right. He gave us DeFi protocols. And then when he said he was building PulseChain, I was like, man, now they're going to come. Now people like you are going to come and build things that are going to give value to the DeFi system.
Yeah.
And he did. He built PulseChain, and then you guys came. So I was like, I'm convicted. I'm all behind this thing, and from the day one Hex, I was like, I'm gonna help promote this and try and bring some sensibility to crypto, because let's face it, and I love my Hexicans, I love my crypto bros, but there's a lack of leadership, there's a lack of business acumen, there's a lack of understanding real world value versus this quick meme society that we have that wants fast wealth, that wants to get it with strange, weird marketing techniques. And I know that we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and get rid of all those things. But we do, I think the newer generation needs to take some of the lessons from the older guys' book and put them into utilization. Yeah. And that's where I thought I might be able to help. And that's where my biggest challenge has been trying to bring some sensibility to this space, and constantly fighting with the powers that be that are actually really running the show, which is,
it's interesting. It's
the memers and the coiners. And
it's interesting you say that, because I think there's a few parallels between your journey and my journey. I mean, I was a bit the same. I looked at Richard, and initially I was like, oh, gee, I don't know about this guy. I kind of like what he's saying, but I'm not sure if and at the same time, there were so many scams out there, and I'm thinking, just be mindful that, something could break. Anyway, went through a process, and then I remember the day clearly. I thought, no, I trust this guy. I'm going to back it, and I'll see how things progress. And sure enough, Hex was on a bit of a tear, and I was really pleased to be part of that. I mean, obviously things haven't been as great of late, but the fundamental reason for joining Richard was that I trusted the guy, and I actually could see what he was building was really valuable. And to your point, when PulseChain came around, I remember I spoke to a whole bunch of guys that I was connected with, and one of them was Scottish Dave. And I remember my background, if you may or may not know, but I was in finance. Well, basically I was a partner in a fairly large multinational accounting firm, but my focus was on HR and finance, and I would work with the banking sector a fair bit. And once you've done that, you kind of realize that there's the legacy systems that they have are so draconian that they needed complete rehaul. And even now, their front of house is so much better than the back of house. But anyway, so I can remember thinking and saying to Dave, mate, I love this. I love PulseChain. I love that we're going to be able to sort of invest in PulseChain. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to sell the bloody thing. I don't want to have to sell it to extract value. And the reason behind all that was that I kind of knew that as soon as you do that, if you look at any other appreciating asset over time, you don't want to sell it. You never want to sell that asset. You want to extract value, but you never want to sell it. So anyway, that was part of the reason why we went down that path of starting Liquid Loans. But to me, that our journeys are similar in the sense that you get to a point where you trust the guy, and then you back him, and then you're all in. But what I really appreciate is you're not only doing that, but you're also communicating to the broader audience. And I think, to me, what I'd love to see, and I'm really hoping that we can morph this when, and I'm hopeful that Richard's stuff just, all of that gets resolved soon and he's back on track. But what I'd love to see is us making more inroads into the more traditional financial markets and being able to engage with them. And whilst I can see the purist in me says, hey, no, we need complete decentralization, and that's the path that we need to be focused on. And whilst I agree in principle with that, I think I'm a pragmatist as well. And I'd say, well, okay, there's a bit of a stepping stone to this, and there's a bit of argy-bargy and pushing back. But if we can get financial people that are more literate with the financial side involved in understanding the mechanics here, I think we've got a different path. And then all of a sudden you're going to see more blue collar people coming into the community. And I kind of feel that's the diversification that we need. But I don't know, I'd love to hear your point of view on that, whether you think that's the path or whether I'm wrong and maybe there's a different path for us,
Well, no, I think you're 100% correct. I mean, the generation before us, we're X generation. The generation before us was the baby boomers, the biggest generation that ever hit the planet in our country. I think the whole world.
Yeah.
And they've got all the wealth. They hold the wealth, and they are about to hand it down to the Gen Xers because they're dying, they're retiring, they're being taken care of by the Gen Xers. I'm taking care of my grandfather was the greatest generation, but I'm taking care of him and my parents and those kinds of things. So the Gen Xers are getting the wealth. The Gen Xers are stuck in the middle. We were raised by the boomers and the greatest generation. We had grandfathers that rode horses to school. We didn't have computers when we were growing up. But as we became adults and we became into our working lives in our 30s and 40s, the computer systems came and we had to change everything up. We had to become, we had to have a cell phone in our pocket. We had to understand the computer world. So we're very, very dangerous because we learned both sides and we understand the old world and the way that money really moves and moves in systems and cycles. And like all of these things, like even liquid loans, crypto, all of these things, there's nothing new under the sun. These people think they have something new. It's not. It's the same thing with a different technology is all. Human beings have been running finance and the grift and the lying, the cheating, the stealing, and all, even all the good products for millennia. And there is nothing new here. And I think that's where we need to get what we need everybody to understand. We need the new generation to understand that, hey, we get it, guys. You just need to quit talking in parables, quit talking in three-letter, what do you call it? Anyway, you got to quit changing the language, and let's all speak on the same language and realize that you need the money to come into this system in order to fix the things that you guys want to fix. And we all want it fixed. In fact, the product here of Hex and liquid loans fits right in with what the Gen Xers and the baby boomers need. Yeah. They need solid money. They need access to that money. They need to quit being gatekept. They need retirement plans. And Hex provides that, and Liquid Loans provides those types of tools for them to use. So we have to figure out a way to speak to that generation in their language, and make them not afraid of what this is. Yeah. And I think that's our biggest challenge, is trying to get the people that own crypto now to back off and help the other generation get into this, so that because that's what we need. We see the Bitcoiners have been screaming forever to try and bring adoption. They've been trying to bring adoption. How are we going to make this thing really pump when only 2-3% of the world has ever been into crypto? And it hasn't really grown since. Yeah. Because every time they bring people in, they flush them out and they lose them. And instead of, creating something that's meaningful, that lasts, that people can understand, they've continuously grifted. And then when that failed, when they couldn't bring the new users in, they sold all of their crypto to BlackRock, to the entity that they were trying to stop from taking over finance. They handed the keys to the city over to them. And now we're in a pretty difficult predicament in crypto. I think that what Richard has done has removed us from that, and we don't have to worry about that. But now we have to build something new, because that has now been centralized. You can look at the at the mining pools. You can look at the fact that the code is flawed. You can look at all the things that have happened over there with the exchanges, and know that has failed. That has failed to be what we wanted, which was decentralized finance. And now we've got it over here. Richard has created it over here and said, okay, I'm going to create a little island and a shining city on the hill over here. And if you guys do the right thing and promote this properly, we can have crypto. But if not, how do we end up with something?
But how do we grow it, mate? How do we grow that? How do we reach that audience that may be pushing back against? Because look, let's face it, Richard has a particular persona, or certainly has had. And that kind of ostracizes some of that audience. And it's like, we need to get past that. These people need to see the value in this. And I kind of feel that if we need to tap into that, we need to somehow get into that audience so that, and so, for example, I think you and I, whilst we have similar likes, we're different, obviously. But I look at it and I think, I can remember I went to Amsterdam with Dave quite a while back now, to a finance conference, because I said to Dave, I just want to see what these people are into now. And there's so many of them that just don't know enough about crypto. And the only thing they hear is Bitcoin. They don't know about Richard. They don't know about PulseChain. They don't quite understand what the hell liquid loans and how that works, but they're interested. And I kind of think we need to somehow get to that community of people that is a little bit different to the ones that have currently in the existing community. And that's the challenge. I think that's the challenge for us going forward,
So what we have here is a revolution. We have a revolution and a movement that has to happen. And it's not going to be done by marketing. It's not going to be televised. It's not going to be done that way. It's not going to be taught that way. It's not going to become interesting to people in that way. What needs to happen, and I learned this through marketing, and being a blue collar worker, I had a certain mindset. So I come from the streets, drug idled streets of Los Angeles, and Inglewood was where I grew up, and I learned a certain way of conducting business, conducting myself, and dealing with human beings. And then as I got older, I understood, that my world was this blue collar world, and that there was a professional world out there. And I needed to figure out how to get myself into that and how to extract myself from working every day and become an entrepreneur and do all these things. So moving myself into this space, I realized that there was a void that we've got to fill, and I'm hoping that what it is that we're doing here by bringing people together is what's going to do that, because a story needs to be told. I said, we're not going to be able to market this thing. It's not going to be traditionally marketed. It's not going to end up on a newspaper or on television ads and whatnot. It needs to be human beings telling stories. And because we have social media platforms, we can tell those stories. And we can do them just like this, and video chats. So they can see that, hey, here's this guy, RG. He's a blue collar worker, worked 35 years as a millwright, putting his boots on the dark, taking them off in the dark, hardly had any retirement savings, was going to have to work until he was damn near 80 if his body held up. And usually they die. My friend, I just lost another one a few months ago.
Wow.
Killed over dead, still working to this day. Yeah. Didn't know how he was going to retire, didn't have a way to retire. Mm-hmm. So the dream of that has gone away from most of these guys that are out there working, and it's not their fault. Mm-hmm. Their society has failed them. The financial system has failed them, mm-hmm. and it's not their fault. So how do we reach them? They have to relate to us, first of all, like we related to Richard. We said, hey, Richard's a good guy. So they got to know that we're real. They got to know that our stories are real, that we're not just out here BSing our way through this stuff, trying to sell them something. Because that's what you said. You don't want to sell anything. We have to tell that story. Me as the blue collar guy, you as the professional in finance, we're not too far away from each other, but we are from two different worlds. And but people need to know what you think about it, what I think about it, what our stories are, why we're doing what I'm doing. My why is I want to get those guys up off the couch, put their beers down, and go out and figure out a way to get themselves out of the situation they're in by using crypto. You want to go out and build products that are going to help those guys to do so. And that's where we have to tell that story. The two of us being the same, but being different. We have to tell that story to those folks so that we do get the Gen Xers to come in and bring that money and bring that value and grow crypto from the crypto bros and the Robinhood retailers that come in every bull market and then exit every bear market. We need to get the real people involved, make it simple and easy for them to get a wallet, connect their bank account to it, and understand how to move crypto back and forth, and then once they get over the fear of all that and they hear our story and they see what we're doing, I think one of the things that's going to help us, and I've got different opinions of what's going on in my country politically, but they're taking a hammer to our system. The administration that's coming in is not going to surgically fix what's going on. Now, I don't know if that's the right way or the wrong way to do it. I can't say that. I'm a little terrified of the hammer approach, but I'm mortified of a scalpel approach too, because that hasn't been working. They've attempted to try and do that. So the hammer coming in is going to break a lot of things. Unfortunately, it's going to break some good things, but it's going to break all the things in the system that I think are giving us a barrier to being successful. So
I just, my only comment on that would be, and I totally agree with you. I think, to me, Trump coming in, Elon doing what they're doing, carving out all the bullshit, all of a sudden the grift is everywhere. RG, it's everywhere. And it's so prominent now that it's ridiculous the amount of money that has been wasted. And I think the narrative is now people are fed up with bullshit. And that's going to help, because all of a sudden the grifters will still be there. Let's face it. That's the nature of human being, is that there'll always be someone wanting to.
There'll be new grifters that come in because
so you can't avoid that. But I think what my hope is that transparency starts to come through and really permeates the whole sector. And so if that happens, I think the sort of stuff you're doing, and I wanted to talk about your upcoming conference. That's how we do that. You're right. It's sharing stories, and it's sharing stories with different audiences, but all of a sudden the grifting or the need for transparency is so more prominent now than it has been. And that's what I'm hopeful for. And I know you're right. I think, look, my gut feel says that, and I'm going to say this, all roads lead to London, right? So we need to somehow break free from some of that stranglehold. And I think Donald Trump, Elon Musk are doing everything they need to do to make sure that, we can remove some of that nonsense and get rid of it, become more transparent, so that these stories become more valid. It's, it doesn't come across as, hey, we're just trying to grift you to do something, and I think, I'd like to know more about your conference, because I think there's a prime opportunity there of really engaging with some of those folk.
Yeah, and thanks. We'll get right to it. But I remember, back in the 80s when I was, a teenager, I remember the first time I heard that the government had spent, $100 on an ink pen. And I was like, well, how is this stuff possible? And then I realized that it was the industrial complexes that had gotten their hands into the government and created the ways for them to steal from us. And they've been stealing from us for decades and decades and decades. So this is nothing new. And like you said, the corruption has just permeated everything. And the people that are trying to get to do good out there, because I have run into good politicians, I have run into good people that have tried to make things better, and they've just either been bowled over, converted into a grifter, or, just beat to hell after years and years of doing it, that they just finally quit and say, I give up, and that's the shame. And there was no way for us normal humans to vote in people that we can trust to actually get in there and fix things. We lost all control of that, especially with this last thing they did with Citizens United, which completely took the human vote out of it and put money in the system, and then they had complete control. Yeah. And now things have to be broken in order to be fixed. And it can be overwhelming. And I can look at all these different things and listen to news and try and dig into articles and try and figure out. But after the last few years, I've had to take a step back and go, okay, what can I do? What is it? I can't do all of it. I can't go out there and speak to all of it. I have to become an expert at a subject matter and try and make it and try and make the world a better place where I can do that work, you know. And I know that the one thing that I may not be the smartest tool in the shed or the sharpest tool, but I am damned determined that nobody will ever outwork me. You cannot stop me. You cannot beat me. I will outwork anybody, whether it's good work, bad work, whatever. I will continue to go until I fall over dead. And that's my conviction to this thing. So my focus has been, like what you and I have been talking about, is how do I reach the audiences and show them that we're real? What's the easiest way for me to show them that we're real? Okay, well, let's make a movie, a documentary that shows them who we are. Okay, well, that didn't get super well received yet. It's out there. It's still possible that people coming into crypto will end up seeing that movie. It's there for eternity. And it does tell a story of who we are and gets people interested. But how do I do that? And I knew through marketing, like I said, being around the world and doing this marketing, that I could actually affect people more by being in front of them. You know, you and I have had conversations, but when we come together, when you and I sit down together and we really talk and we really see each other eye to eye, and that human interaction happens, it changes everything. We become friends, we become confidants, we become trusted servants to one another. And that is attractive. Yeah. And it brings other people of like mind and like focus in. And when you get 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, 100 people with that mindset, with that relationship, it's unbeatable. Yeah. That's when you start making changes. That's when we start getting the movement started. That's when the revolution really starts taking place, is when like-minded people start bringing in other like-minded people. Mm-hmm. My goal, my dream, my aspiration is to fill stadiums of people like that. I want to fill a stadium. I want the Las Vegas Sphere filled with crypto like-minded people. And I'm not stopping until we do that. I think it's possible. I know that once we start doing things like that, once people see that kind of action, that kind of power, that's when things start changing. That's when people start feeling confident of getting in. Because right now, you look at some guy on YouTube with a chart, and he's got tattoos all over his face. And I'm not saying anything bad about tattoos on your face or anything, but I'm just saying he's sitting there and he's grifting and charts are dipping and all this other stuff's happening and this weird stuff. That doesn't bring financial, that doesn't bring people with financial acumen into the space, you know. It gets the crypto bros excited and they, love the grift and the gambling and all that. But those are all fleeting, come and goes. We need real solid, relationships built with people, bringing other people in, sharing these stories and becoming trusted confidants, trusted members of a movement. And then we've got something. You know,
I think the word you're looking for, which you've mentioned it, is community. And I don't know. Have you ever traveled to parts of Asia at all? Have you ever spent any time there?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Yeah. And
it's been a lot of time.
Yeah. So one of the places that I particularly like is Cambodia. And because some of these, like, it's the very poor people, but there's a community. People help each other. Like, it's really lovely to see. They're doing it tough, but there's no one's out there for themselves so much. Sure, there's an element of, hey, you need to protect your own, but there's a community element, and I remember I was out in one of the areas where they harvesting rice, and it's the whole community come to a particular plot and they harvest the rice together. So it's everyone helping. I think what you guys have been doing, and I think I really commend you for the work that you've done. And I know you work really hard. And I'd hazard to say that you're probably the hardest working community member that I'm aware of. But it's community. We need people to be thinking more like, hey, this is a community. How can we help each other? And I think as soon as we start to do that, we'll include more of the people that perhaps aren't in the tent at the moment, and they'll start to see the value of the community. That's what I'm hopeful as well.
Yeah. One of the things that and thanks for the kind words, but one of the things that really took a lot of my time, but I thought was valuable, and sometimes I thought it was a waste of time, was trying to mend relationships amongst the people within the community, because I got to know everybody personally. You name it. I've been to their homes, I've been to their towns, I've been to their, I've sat down and eaten with them and their families, their wives, their kids, got to know their parents, went on cruises with their families, and I did all of these things, and I know who they are as people. And I know not all of them had great launches to their products, or products came out and things failed, or liquidity got pulled by a whale, or this whale they said is doing this and this whale is doing that. And when I meet them, they're like, nah, dude, I'm not doing that. This is somebody else. And this, I've got a company that's behind this doing that. But people don't take the time to get to know each other and learn who each other are. And instead they just create these rifts. So I spent a lot of time that I feel like might have been wasted trying to mend relationships and build the community. I thought that was what I needed to do. And instead I've stopped doing the micro management of the community and trying to deal with rifts and explain people's positions and whatnot. And I've started to take a seat back and say, you know what, we just need to bring everybody together, put a message out there, and let the community start to develop on its own. Just give them the tools to go out and build the community. Because it's those stories, it's the community, the people, the leadership that's going to show up. I mean, look at the streamers we have now. Like we've got, Somi out there just crushing it. We've got Crypto Coffee out there just crushing it. All of these guys that I had hoped were gonna be better are better. I was like, hey, I'm gonna turn this thing on. I'm gonna turn the camera on, and I'm gonna start talking about Hex and Richard and what's going on. But there's gonna be better streamers that come. There's gonna be better people that come. But maybe hopefully what I'm doing here is gonna bring them. And so that's what I did. So I think that my place here is to continue to work, continue to bring tools that allow the community to come together and grow and thrive and become stronger. And with the PulseChain Tour, I think that does that. That bringing people out to Vegas and letting them meet with people like you that are building projects, that are doing things, and let them know who you really are. Like, it's too easy to just discard somebody online, when in all actuality, when you get in front of them, let's face it, the hardest thing to get rid of is a body. When you get in front of them and you really get into a deep conversation and you get to know who they are, you feel that energy. On here we can talk and yell and scream at each other and expletives and say horrible things about one another, and it doesn't matter. We get to walk away. But when you're together, you don't do that.
No,
it's a different.
It's a different vibe. It's a different vibe.
We try to relate because we want peace there. Nobody wants a knife fight in a conversation. They try and develop peace. They try and develop similarities, and the things that they disagree upon, they say why we disagree upon them. And then we agree to disagree on things versus, it turning into an all-out war and a blocking fest and stuff, So getting together and that human interaction is extremely important to building a strong community.
Yeah. And it's interesting.
That's our marketing tool.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think if the approach you're taking, and I think there was a bit of feedback that I heard, which I thought was fantastic, and that is you guys doing what you're doing with the upcoming events that you're running. I think that's exactly what we need to be doing. And even though, yes, there's an existing community, breaking out of that and introducing it to others is really important. And so the context from our point of view is, in addition to what you're doing, like I'm presenting at more TradFi type audience coming up in the next 6 months, there'll be a lot more presentations to that group, because it's partly getting them to realize that, hey, there is another way of achieving really good outcomes, and here's a path, and you can look at PulseChain, you can appreciate what's happening here, but it's getting to that audience that we're trying to achieve. And look, it's going to be hard work, but I just think that's the approach we're thinking to take, is to try and get to some of those audiences that are, I can never forget it. I was in Europe and I presented to an audience, and the jaw dropping was like incredible, that people were all of a sudden, traditional finance people just had no clue. And then it's like, oh my goodness, and just couldn't understand it initially, but then you could see the path, they could see the pathway. And the only challenge, to be perfectly frank, that we've had for some of that audience is just that, unfortunately, the negative perceptions that have been floating around PulseChain, and the consequences for Richard hasn't been great. And really hopeful that all of that gets pushed away and Richard comes back into the fold, and he's doing a lot more work of late, I've noticed, that would suggest that that's the pathway. But as soon as that happens, I'm hopeful. It'd be interesting to see how Richard comes back, whether his personality is still the same old Richard or whether he shifts his personality a little bit, because I'm hopeful that we can tap into some of that audience that isn't the traditional audience that we've had so far.
We know that that Richard has a good head on his shoulders. We know that he's smart. We know that he has empathy, and we know that he wants to make the world a better place. We know that he comes from a place of respect and love. And we also know that he can be in the know of what the algorithm needs. I think that that's really what was all about. Now, I'm not going to say that he probably doesn't. We all have our character defects and our flaws and our things that we, I mean, look, I mean, we all have the things that we have our demons, and I'm sure Richard has his own, and some of them may have shown during his marketing plan, but I don't think that, that defines the man. I think that, he did what was necessary at the time, he thought, to bring adoption, and it did. I mean, look what we did. We did a 10,000x. Yeah. With that technique. And was there some fallout and some blowback from it? Oh yeah. We suffered. We suffered as influencers and people that were supporting all this. We suffered as a community. Crypto suffered. We all did. But it worked in the way that he wanted it to work. Now, he has said that I'm a changed man. Things are different. That was the old Richard. There's a new Richard. And we haven't seen that new Richard yet, because he's been away. And there has probably been some pressure because of legal issues as to why he hasn't. On top of, what could the man have been saying for the last 3 years to anybody, other than a few tweets here and there, a few things that he mentioned, in Twitter? Half of the things he mentioned in Twitter over the last 3 years didn't get well received by most of the community or some of the community, and some did. And so there was really no need for him to be out in front of anybody, like I said, legally or because of the bear market. Now that the bull market's coming, he's becoming more active. Now that these lawsuits and things, and I'm fully embroiled in them. Yeah. Myself, with my businesses, with me personally, and all of my lawyers and all the things that I've done to comply with the agencies, the 3-letter agencies, and there's more than just one of them that have talked to us. I'm more than happy with what they're looking for and what they've discovered, because see, I'm in the middle of it. I know what they're looking for, and there is nothing there. I know the people they're talking to. I know the relationships that they have with Richard. I know the relationships we all have with Richard, and there isn't one. We don't have business relationships with Richard. This is an organic community. And so every time I see them fail at trying to dig up something that isn't there, I just know I'm very, very bullish on the fact that they are going to end up dropping all of this.
Yeah.
Richard will be exonerated. I don't know about the whole Interpol thing and all that and what's going on over here in Europe. It's not my, not my expertise. I don't know. But I do know that on the other side of it, where I sit and where all the rest of the influencers sit, Richard has really nothing to worry about, and that he will be exonerated in all of this. And we will be robust and will be a chain that people will look at. And of course, all that narrative is going to have to go away eventually. I mean, it's been 5 years they've been yelling and screaming this stuff about us, and it's about to end, I think.
Yeah, look, I couldn't agree more. I think there's even just noticing Richard's more active at the moment. I think that obviously the change of government has helped enormously. It's almost like the veil of bullshit has been removed and people are seeing through all of that. And I'm hopeful, like you, that given everything that's happening, given all of what I've read in terms of Richard's litigation and what he's having to deal with, it feels like there's a significant shift. And look, let's face it, I think if Donald Trump hadn't have been elected, I think we may have still struggled. But now that that's happened, and it's almost like Trump and the administration saying, look, we're fed up with bullshit. We're just going to unmask all the nonsense. And you would have noticed just all of the waste that's been going on and the impact on not just the US economy, but more broadly. I think that shift, it's almost like people are saying, enough bullshit. Let's get on with the reality of the circumstance. I think that's going to bode very well for Richard. And I'm really hopeful that he gets through all of that nonsense that he's having to deal with, and we end up in a much better position. My only question mark at this point is more around, and I think you've alluded to it, what Richard's going to come back with. So is Richard going to be the Richard of old? And let's face it, Richard has morphed and changed during his time as well. Or is he going to be a bit more calm and will his demeanor be very different? And I'm curious about that. I'm hopeful that it is, because we need to reach a broader audience. But at the same time, it could be the same old Richard, and we just keep chipping away. I'm not sure how that's going to pan out, to be honest.
Well, I think that Richard was influenced a lot more by the community itself during that bull run. He was interacting with us. You could see him interacting with the chat rooms and his streams and yelling at people and shutting people down and doing those things. So the community was getting to him in certain ways at times. I would see that, and he was interacting with it, and he was influenced by those that supported him and those that opposed him, all of that. Yeah. Now that he's stepped away, and I know for a fact that even by, questions that have been answered by him through people that have tried to communicate with him and whatnot, that he's not very connected to the community itself as far as the BS and the day-to-days and all that. So my guess is that he's really kind of changed his focus on what he's doing as far as, interacting with the community and being influenced by the community. So I think that he's got his own game theory going on. He's got his own game plan, and that he has stayed disconnected from us for that reason. He's a smart guy. He does know how to operate and function at a very high level. So my guess is that he's got his own game plan in place, and the community hasn't, really affected that, because you can see with a lot of the moves that he's made over the last, say 6 months to a year, that he doesn't really care what people are saying about things. He's just saying and doing the things that are making moves, that are making things possible, and I think that's kind of a hint as to what Richard's going to look like when he does come back, if he comes back. Yeah.
And incidentally, do you have any insights in terms of all of that? Because I think the last I saw is that there was obviously the judge had made some questionable comments around everything. But then it's almost like a sleeping pattern. So I'm not even sure if anything's progressing at the moment.
Well, I think there's a few things that have happened, and by counsel's informed me a little bit of what's going on, and I can share, what I do know. is that the judge typically in a hearing like that. Let's make sure that we understand that this is a hearing, not a case. This is not a court. This was not a case. It was a hearing. The hearing was said to have an answer usually within 90 days because of the brevity of the situation. That was a usual. It wasn't a in stone. It's going to be 90 days. We had a election and we had a holiday over that period. So when those things happen, judges are busy. She's got a caseload of things that she's working on. My guess is that Christmas, the election, all these things kind of pushed her caseload out. So we may be seeing, something here within the next few weeks, couple of weeks, is my guess. So I'm pretty confident that the case or the hearing will go Richard's way, and that there will be a dismissal. That's my thought and my feeling from all the legal experts, from the legal team that I speak to, and from what I see going on politically. I think that we're going to see that. Now, what does that do for us? Maybe it unties Richard's hands a little bit and he gets to get back into the swing of things. Whether he does or doesn't, I don't know. But it's going to definitely relieve a lot. And, it doesn't change us, the community. It'd probably make people a lot more bullish in the community. There's probably some sideline money out there that's waiting to come in, that wants to come in, and is waiting for that, answer. Hey, am I going to get into something that the founder's going to end up in a prison cell? Because let's face it. Look, they put CZ in jail. They got Roger Ver sitting there looking at a 100-year sentence. I mean, that's no joke. By the grace of whatever you may call up above, Ross Ulbricht was let out of prison. And that man had served 10, 11 years already, for crypto related incidents. So everybody's like, there's a lot of sideline money and a lot of people that are waiting to see what is going to happen here before they feel confident in getting, really involved. So
look, it'll be interesting to see how it progresses. And I'm like you, I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful that, Richard gets past this and he can start afresh. And I'd like to see him back on again. It'd be nice to see from Richard, but who knows how that's going to transpire. I guess the other thing I wanted to ask you about, because I know you've got a conference coming up. Did you want to sort of share a bit more about that and how that's panning out?
Yeah, if I can talk about details, can I talk about one of our partnerships?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, and we're so glad to have you guys on board with us and supporting us and being part of the event. And, and you guys, what I really liked about the way you guys approached us was, it's like, hey, RG, yeah, we'll buy a booth and put some banners up and support you guys. You said, our first meeting was, we want to support you. We want to support you, who you are, what you're doing. And we want to be here to partner with you, not just, throw some money at some banners and be there representing for all Hexicans to see that we're part of it. You said you wanted to be part of, and these conversations that we're having are part of it. It's us coming together as a community, teaming up with people building on PulseChain and doing the good work, doing the hard work like we are, and wanting to be part of. So I appreciate you guys coming in and bringing that, not just supporting us with a few shekels to put up banners and whatnot and be there, but to actually say that you want to be involved, and sitting down talking with your team for the last few meetings shows me that you guys are convicted also like we are into making this event, fill up stadiums one day. So again, appreciate that. We're going to put on a really cool event. I'm going to be there a day early. Anybody wants to DM me and come and hang out at a Cigar Lounge and do a little pre-party or a pre-chill. I'll be there a day early. Hit me with the DMs and I'll show you guys where the Cigar Lounge is I'm going to be hanging out at.
I'm very envious. That unfortunately I can't be there. Dave can't be there. We've just got some other commitments that are clashing. but I'm very envious. I'd love to be there. And I think, some of our team are actually going to be there, and we're looking forward to the event. I think for me, just the fact that you guys are going to all the effort, like that, to me, this is just a reflection of you and your commitment to the community. And I really, really value it. And I respect it, because the fact is, I think the approach you're taking is exactly the type of approach that's going to engage a much broader audience to PulseChain and what we're about. So congratulations. Thank you so much. And Dave and I are very, very happy to be part of this process. I think the only other thing that I'd like to say is, I know there's a golf tournament, and we got some of our reps are really good golf players. So
sending some ringers out, I heard.
Yeah, two of our team are very good golfers.
So no, thank you, and you keep praising me, but I have to mention my team. With KC and SJ, which is crypto culture. People know her as Kaylin Black Hexkin. She is she's the everything here. I'm the guy that stands up and speaks, and they have to manage me basically. But between the two of them, we've put something good together, and we've seen decent events. We've seen great online events with Maddie's online event, and we've seen people come in and try and grift us for events. We've seen a mixture of all of it, and I watched and I sat back and I tried to participate, but I wanted to make sure that not only did we achieve our goal of bringing everybody together, but we brought value to the people, because we know this is hard-earned money. This is hard-earned time. This is money and time that could be spent doing crypto, being part of the ecosystem, and I know that's a big, issue for people. It's like, well, why would I spend money on an event versus, just putting it into crypto? Well, you put money into a lot of things in your life, like Coca-Colas and McDonald's hamburgers and cigarettes and stupid stuff that you don't really necessarily need. So this here is something that we need. The community needs to grow stronger by coming together. And I'm not saying that this is for everybody, that everybody can make it here, but if you can, it's going to be a very valuable event for you. I'm not charging outlandish rates. We're paying for the venue. We're paying for the seats. We're paying for the food and the entertainment and the camaraderie that we're going to, give the community. So we're going to pump your bags by building a stronger community, and we're going to give you something that is going to actually be a tool for us to go out and speak to the world as we grow it. So participating in this and showing support for this is actually pumping your bags. So don't get it mixed up, guys. This isn't a grift by RG3. I don't make any money off of this. I haven't made a dime. It's cost me money. Every single trip that I've made has cost me money. And I gladly do it because I think that this is going to work. I really do think this is going to work. So I'm going to continue to do it. But just to show you what she's put together for the value, you go to PulseChainTour.com and you can see the tickets and the prices all the way to the VIP, just to the tickets of you going there. But on the 6th, first on the 5th, you can come hang out with RG and we'll go have a cigar. But on the 6th, we're going to start by having a registration party. Everybody come in. We're going to have a DJ blasting everything. It's going to be laser shows, the whole thing, party, open bar. Everybody's going to have fun just getting to know each other. And then the next day on the 7th and 8th, Friday and Saturday, a whole cast of speakers. You name it, all your favorites from on Access Live, Crypto Coffee. You guys are going to have somebody representing there. We're going to have panels. We're going to have panel discussions on certain subjects. We're going to have our lawyers and our legal eagles within the community there speaking about legal issues and having legal panels. I'm also going to have the Treasurer of Nevada, Zach Conine, who is a politician who's trying to do well, actually speaking to the crypto community and telling them, what the government really is like. Like, you're going to have one of these guys that you think is full of shit and grifting, and you're going to have him there in front of you to talk to. And see that he's a real human being, that he's really trying to do things. He's really trying to learn about DeFi, and he's here with us, And so that's what I want people to see, is that they're not all needing to have a hammer on top of the head. There's people out there that are trying to do good things, And so Zach's going to be there. And then on Sunday the 9th, what you're talking about, and this is Crypto Culture's baby. She has created a golf event that is going ballistic. At this point, we've got, at one point we had like $50,000 in crypto, but then we got a dip. So now we're, right around 20, 30, I don't know. Anyway, we're hoping to have it up close to 100,000 by the time. Let's get a pump, right? So there's a lot of crypto still coming in. We're getting other donations coming in of crypto for the event. So it's growing. Now, something cool that just happened is that Crypto Culture went out to Vegas yesterday, and she started trying to get things pumping there. Like, she wanted to make sure our signage was up and that they were registering outside golfers to come in, because last year when we had the golf tournament, we had 4 golfers that won crypto prizes that they were no coiners. And we onboarded them there. They had to set up wallets, and they won their crypto prizes. Yeah. And now they're hexagons. So it was a great onboarding tool. So she went out there and said, how can I make this even, how can we get more? Four, that's great. We got 4 golfers, great. Whoopie-doo, right? But still, we did something. Yeah. Well, how do we make it bigger? So she went out there and figured this out. She's freaking brilliant. Yeah. So she goes out there and she goes and talks to the golf club and makes sure everything's going. And she starts talking to all the staff, and she said, hey, how about if we put out a prize of $50, $100, $200 for every golfer, no coiner, that you bring into the tournament?
Wow.
So she put out a prize bounty on bringing golfers into the tournament, and that are no coiners. So now she's looking at getting no coiners in all over, and they're gonna set up a wallet and see if the community wants to donate some Pulse, so that, because it is the PulseChain Tour, we can't just give them the crypto that we have. So we're gonna see if people will donate Pulse, and we're gonna incentivize the staff there to bring golfers into the tournament, and we're gonna do it with little Pulse per registration Pulse donation. So there will be a on the website, on the PulseChain Tour website, for people to donate Pulse if they'd like to help support the prize money to bring people into the golf tournament. So that'll be on Sunday the 9th, and it should be a pretty big impact. We're literally just asking people to donate $5 or $10 in Pulse, and like I said, it'll be on the website on PulseChain Tour.
Yeah, I think, mate, yeah, congratulations to you and your team. I mean, the effort you guys have gone into to get this right, and I do believe it's the right approach. And although, there's always people that will criticize stuff, but the key word for me is community, and the best way of bringing them together is through something like this. So this is not about, there's an argument that says, and I think Richard may have said things like this, that, hey, why attend a conference when you can just invest in crypto? But this is about building relationships with people in the community that last much longer than the actual conference itself. That's the value. It's building a community and expanding that community. So thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate all the effort that you and your team have gone to pull this together. And as I said, we've got a couple of really good golfers in there, so we're kind of hopeful that they can at least perform well.
We'll see.
Mate, it's been lovely to chat. I think as I said, we've got some other commitments. We won't be there, but, really, really hope that things go really well. I'd love to catch up with you on another time when we can chat about other things. But I think the only other thing I would wanted to commend you on is that we set up a site called gopulsechain.com, which is, our intention was, how do we market PulseChain? How do we actually provide more information about PulseChain to people that may not know anything about PulseChain? But one of the things that we did create, in addition to what we've done there, is we've added a leaderboard in terms of people who are crushing it on PulseChain right now. And you happen to be on that leaderboard. No surprises. Yeah, no surprises. We've got your friend Somi's there. So it's gopulsechain.com/community. But if people have a look at that, you'll get a sense of who's really promoting and helping grow the chain, and you're there, mate. So along with Maddie Allen and a few others. So really appreciate all your efforts. And it's just disappointing we can't be there, but we'll have folk there that we'll certainly enjoy the event. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. We'll make it up, my friend. We'll make
Yep.
it up.
Good on you. Thank you, mate. We'll speak soon.